Hi, welcome to another edition of the Founder Labs podcast. Today we have with us Dr. Shikha Dhawan. With over 22 years of experience spanning health research, public health, and entrepreneurship, Dr. Shikha Dhawan is a passionate advocate for patient-centric preventive healthcare. She holds a PhD in microbiology, a postdoctorate in biomedical research from the USA, and a PGDM in biotechnology business management. She's the founder of Biozazen, a company that creates bioenzyme-based sustainable solutions for industries, promoting eco-conscious practices. Her mission combines science, sustainability, and inclusivity to address real-world challenges. Beyond business, Dr. Shikha is deeply involved in women's empowerment, rural livelihood, and community health initiatives through the Center for Social Integration and Borderless World. Her commitment to impact is global, mentoring and investing in startups through top ecosystem players including FITT, IIT Delhi, AIC, IIT Delhi, SIIC, IIT Kanpur, HTIC, IIT Madras, India Accelerator, and international platforms like 15 Wins Africa, IXL Gulf, and Because International USA. At Entrepreneur Cafe, she fuels global startup growth, helping founders break barriers and connect with the right investors through mentorship and strategic insights. So welcome, Dr. Shikha.
Thank you, Anuradha and Manoj, for having me at Founders Lab.
Yes, Manoj and I have been going through this entire thing and, looking at your LinkedIn profile, trying to do a deep dive, but there's so much. So I think we'll just rely on the conversation today to, truly get an idea of what all you've done and how you're helping entrepreneurs and women in rural areas and so much that you're doing. So you've worn multiple hats of a researcher, public health advocate, and now you're a sustainability founder. So tell me, what was the moment, or how did you make that leap from academia to entrepreneurship?
Something like your feet take you to places where you need to be. So it was like friends who always wanted me to do something new, something exciting, and I always had that thing in me to save the earth, save the planet. You only live once and you owe it to the future generation to leave a safe place to breathe, live, and thrive. So with passion, I wanted to do something sustainable, environment friendly, and academia I've never left, because when people see my LinkedIn profile, they get an impression, they think that I've left academia. I've never left. I'm still teaching. I'm faculty in a lot of courses. I really enjoy that. I am a daughter of teachers. Both my father and father-in-law's side, we are all teachers, a family of teachers. So that's a passion I've never left. And I would say, and rather, I've added more things to it, like going to the villages, working with farmers, working with startups, working with entrepreneurs. So just enjoying it.
That's great. And I think mentorship is also a form of education, right? So you're still teaching. It's kind of related. So,
right.
Yeah. So as you're saying, you've not really left it. It's just evolved.
Yes.
Yeah, you've taken it a notch higher. So tell me, what inspired Biozazen? Am I pronouncing it right? It's Biozazen?
Yeah, it's Biozazen. Bio is something I wanted to give a name where we are making these sustainable bioenzymes from waste. So we use vegetable and fruit peels basically to make it, and citrus fruit waste. So converting a waste to value, which is something like, I'll tell you, like a lotus flower. The logo of Biozazen is lotus flower. So lotus may bloom in filth, but the beauty of a lotus is such that the color is so eye-catching that you cannot miss the effect it has on human eyes seeing it. So something like that, turning waste into value, was the passion behind the social enterprise Biozazen. And the logo is a man meditating. So converting all good things that can happen to us for peace and prosperity on earth. And I found my ikigai to work with the underserved population. So I went to villages, and these women wanted to understand how they can have livelihood. So I told them there are certain household detergents you're using You have cattle with you, you need to take care of them, bathe them. But the thing was that the chemicals we are using is kind of not good for the environment. But when I tell them you can use citrus waste peels to convert it into a useful product that can be used for mopping, bathing their cattle, in fact washing their own hair, they start understanding the word kifayat. When I tell them this is something you replace in your own household first, what clicks with them is the word kifayat. And then these rural Indian households have open drains. So when they use bioenzyme for washing and mopping their house, the grey water, spent water which goes in the drains actually helps to unclog the drain, because the consortium of bioenzymes which is used is still active. So I had this very interesting incident in Fulbani. So I told them your drains will get clean so mosquitoes will not breed. So these women, Fulbani is an endemic area for malaria. So she said, so ma'am, there'll be no mosquitoes also. If mosquitoes will not breed, there'll be no malaria. That was the moment, Anuradha, because these people living in an endemic zone could connect that if their drains are not clogged and mosquitoes don't breed, there'll be no cases or malaria cases will reduce. So that is something I want to do. My Ikigai is what the world needs, what serves me, what pays me, and what is good for all of us. So that is how BioZazen was born, and very proud to be partnering with a lot of NGOs, Reliance Foundation, Gate Foundation, and a lot of community-based organization. And in fact, women who have given up a career for multiple reasons, they have started this as a livelihood options from the comfort of their home. They make these bioenzymes and we help them to market it and sell it. I do a lot of capacity building sessions and I go to a lot of villages in and around India and teach these women how to make the bioenzyme and how to use it. And bioenzyme is such a wonderful thing, and rather there are use cases which we are still discovering. Like I said, it could be used to bathe the cattle. It can be also used for elderly care, for removing stains from your carpet. I mean, there are certain uses you keep on expanding, and we also figured out it could also be added to the slurry which is used for biogas production. So there's a startup I work with, they use this bioenzyme to act on the agri waste. It hastens their process of decomposition so that the slurry is ready as an input for biogas plant. So we are still discovering new uses. We are reading a lot of literature. I have a very passionate team working with me, and whenever we go to these villages and tell them about it, they find it such an easy thing to do. And in fact, the NGOs I've been going with to the villages, they have also decided to switch to bioenzyme for their household purposes. So it's a really wonderful initiative, and sometimes I feel this is a collective consciousness we are raising to shift to more environment-friendly solutions, which is safe and better for the planet and good for all of us.
Yeah, wonderful. As you said, you found your ikigai in this, right? Gives you joy, gives you purpose. And kifayati, you said, it's basically kifayat. It's accessible, it's affordable, and it's so easy for them. And a wonderful story you told us, that they made the connection immediately on their own, that there'll be no mosquitoes and hence no malaria. So
yes,
wonderful.
This is intelligence from the ground. I mean, I was so impressed that she, being a tribal illiterate woman, just quickly said, okay, so there'll be no malaria or malaria will reduce. That was like awesome.
Yeah, sometimes we underestimate, right? Really?
Yes.
Yeah. So tell me, you said you're going to villages all over India. So where all have you been, and what's your scope, how you can scale up? And I can see there are so many uses even for us, not just in villages. So
Right.
the vision and, you've already said the experiences that you're having, how people are reacting to it. So tell us a little more.
I'll tell you something interesting how this keeps growing up. लोग जुड़ते जाते हैं, कारवा बढ़ता गया. I do a lot of sessions on infectious diseases, HIV/AIDS. So I get a lot of connects from these organizations. They are friends who want to engage these communities which are in rural part of India. So for me, it's always connecting my health mandate because I'm a microbiologist by training. I go to do some work related to laboratory diagnostics and scale up. And in addition, when I talk about Biozazen, they all want to understand how to be independent business owners and how to enhance their livelihood. So going for my work in microbiology as a microbiologist and going to villages, meeting these community-based organizations have taken me to Odisha, Rajasthan, Madhya Pradesh, parts of Delhi, UP, and I do a lot of online sessions also. So when I realized that these people understand to be these nano entrepreneurs understand environment friendliness, they link to the health aspect and they link to the kifayat. So that is something I realize I'm doing a good job. कि कुछ तो ठीक कर रहे हैं, इन सबको समझ आ रहा है. मैं इनको हेल्थ के बारे में बताने जाती हूँ, माइक्रोबायोलॉजी की बात करते start talking about their household use which bioenzyme can fulfill. So these women are very much into kifayat. तो इनको जब समझ आता है कि every month they can do their own saving. So that is somehow the story builds up, and in fact I have even seen women who are doing repeated batches of bioenzymes. So that's the success story, having a repeat customer or having somebody you have trained going back and doing the same product again. So I think that's the success story, and these stories I've posted beautifully on LinkedIn because I realize these women are really good nano entrepreneurs. They need platforms so the world also understands the inherent power in them to make their lives better. So I also post about these women, tribal women, and also people from Madhya Pradesh, the remotest areas of Bundelkhand, who have actually been making these bioenzymes and using it, and now the vision is to take it further for marketing. The vision document I'm working with Reliance Foundation so that we eventually ensure that after they have used it in their household, the more and more batches they make, we find markets for them. And like in the introduction, you talked about Entrepreneurs Cafe. So I have a lot of entrepreneurs and startups working with me as part of the Entrepreneur Cafe network who are into sustainable, conscious living. So they have actually also volunteered to provide platform to sell these products which the rural women are making. So जैसे मैंने बोला था लोग बढ़ते गए, कारवा बढ़ता गया. If you do something good and there's a collective consciousness that is supporting you, so good is going to happen for sure.
Yeah, it builds its own momentum. That's what it looks
Right.
like.
Right.
Yeah, and they're using all their household waste, so zero waste, and then they're also,
Yes.
basically turning entrepreneurs with it. Tell me, where did this seed of the idea come from? I'm just curious to know. How did it all
That
start
is,
for you?
yeah, that is also a very interesting story. I was working with self-help groups in Meerut, and they were into floriculture. So what we realized, they were growing these wonderful chrysanthemums, marigold, and daffodils, selling them in flower markets. But they had a lot of flower waste that was left. So I contacted with friends and asked them, can we do something about this flower waste? So they told me the best thing is to convert any biodegradable waste into bioenzyme. So bioenzyme, I got fascinated because that is also a microbiological fermentation process. So I could see my microbiology in it, the waste converting to value, and with friends pushing me that you should also take it up as an enterprise. So that's how this seed was sown, and there's no looking back.
Yeah, it's wonderful coming back to Biozazen and you run Entrepreneur mentorship, incubators as well. So, coming back to that, when do you know that, some venture is ready to scale up? Like with Biozazen, you said, like it just picked up your momentum on its own. You didn't know where it would reach. And even now, it's still sky's the limit, I'm sure. So you mentored over 100 plus startups across IITs, incubators, international platforms, etc. So what is that, what people call the X factor or whatever you look for, when you know that somebody is ready to scale up now?
Yeah, so the thing is, there are two to three things we always ask an entrepreneur or a startup founder. The thing is, does he have the passion in him? Because we talk about these valley of death for new startups. Do they have it in them to overcome this valley of death? So it could be multiple reasons that startups don't take off, but will his passion hold in the dark phases? Will he be able to sustain? Will he be able to sell his product himself or herself to the first 100 customers? That is how it builds up, because customer feedback is most important. And when we tell this to founders, what we look is, are they mentorable? Are they wanting to unlearn and learn? That is a very key factor, because all founders, all startups are looking for funding. But they should understand that funding is secondary. Lot of things, lot of effort, lot of passion, lot of consistency goes before they can actually scale up. So if a startup can survive comfortably for 3 years, build on its product, knows when to pivot based on customer feedback, and is able to still grow passionately, then there are a lot of opportunities, a lot of government schemes, a lot of angels, a lot of people who can invest in their venture. So I always tell them, money is always there for you. You just need to be persistent, consistent, and it will come, because success is like an iceberg phenomena. Only the tip of the iceberg is visible to all. But what lies beneath is your hard work, your persistence, your failure, your resilience, your never give up attitude. So all these things matter. And sometimes, we see these days on Radha, it has become a trend that everybody wants to be an entrepreneur, because we've started it in schools, we've started in colleges, we were catching them young, which is very good. But do they have it in them? Just because everybody is doing it, it's like a shiny object thing, everybody wants to run for it, but that craze ends. Like when we go to colleges especially, I track the students who are doing PhD. While in college, while they're working with the faculty, they want to take up a business idea, they are looking for commercialization, but once they finish their PhD, they are back trying to find a regular job. So we have seen all these things, so the passion needs to be contained. That if you have done a particular research topic during your PhD, you have to take that product forward. Specialization is the key. It's not that you keep coming back to looking for a job. You are the one who has to create jobs now. So these are all the qualities we try to see in founders and startups. Let me tell you, 10% of them have it in them. And it's our job as mentors, advisors to spot them and nurture them in the right direction. And this is what we've been doing at Entrepreneurs Cafe, and also as me being part of mentor and advisor to incubators across the globe. So it's a very fulfilling, successful journey that you're doing a bit to shape Viksit Atmanirbhar Bharat.
Yes, absolutely. No, and I can imagine it's a very tough journey, what you're saying. I'm just amused that, people try, then they come back, let me just find a job. Because what you're saying that, you have to be very, very resilient to go through that dark phase where nothing is happening, and, you're filled with self-doubt as well, I'm sure.
Right.
Because you're saying at least 3 years you have to be able to manage on your own and see it through. So how do you, you said 10% succeed, but there's 90% who are struggling. So even for the 10%, I'm sure you're doing a lot of hand holding and mentoring. So how do you give them that confidence to, find the right investor, pivot in the right way, what to do when? How do you do that?
So, we have this technology readiness level, and Founders Lab has also published that article that I wrote. I wrote it for the social sector, but it could be for all businesses at which technology readiness level they are. So, we tell them till level 4, get government grants, because there are a lot of government schemes, there are a lot of seed funding which you can take to take your idea forward. And then, because if you want to get investors' money, that brings accountability, and they may start dictating the way you run your business. Having government support in the initial stages is better. So, I have helped a lot of entrepreneurs, a lot of startup founders get their pitch ready, because this is what a reviewer would look at, this is what a funder would look at. So, our job starts telling them having a business plan, because they feel we'll have a business plan when we're going to raise money. So we tell them no, a business plan grows as you grow. In initial stages, it can be just one page, but as you grow, this is not a static document, this is a real-time document. But please write everything. Write about your finances, write about your team, write about your vision. And other day I was seeing on LinkedIn, some successful unicorn has even posted what brainstorming they did, scribbled with hand. So it's something like having a business plan, taking notes, going back to it, refining, documenting. That's also a quality practice, I would say. So we bring in the culture of good documentation practice, bringing quality to different aspects, going back to your notes, doing design thinking, and having a formal record of what did not work. Because on social media and everywhere, we want to project what worked. But what is important for human learning is not repeating the same mistakes. Or it's also like wise people learn from others' mistakes also. So this is what we tell them. And like I said, Anuradha, in the beginning, the founders should be mentorable. They should be willing to unlearn and learn. And there's another aspect also. The advisors and mentors also advise based on their perceptions and their own growth curve. So I tell these founders, please take feedback, suggestions from everyone, but it is your idea. It's your baby. Please use your choice, the power to choose what is best for you. सुनो सबकी, करो वो जो आपको ठीक लगे. ये आपका प्रोडक्ट है, आपका बेबी है. You should be able to make informed decisions. Because every third person is an advisor here, every fourth person is a mentor in the ecosystem these days. But the startups who want to have a vision, who want to make it big, they need to exercise their power of choice. And another thing I keep telling everyone, read. Keep reading. Keep reading what the competitor is doing. Keep refining your pitch. Keep adding new ideas. Don't keep running about what the trend is. You be consistent. Find your USP. USP is your passion, your storytelling, and why people will buy from you in presence of competition. Having competition is always good, because that will keep you on your toes to keep building better and better, to keep selling better than your competition. But people identify with the core values you're bringing, your passion, and the way you tell your story. Something like, I'll tell you a very interesting example here. I was mentoring a woman entrepreneur who told me she's selling sustainable sarees made from sustainable cotton. So I told her, what is your storytelling? She says, I'm a mother, I'm a new mother, and I am having sleepless nights taking care of my baby and running my business. I said, that's the story of all new mothers. So what else are you bringing in your storytelling so that people relate to you? She said, my products are sustainable. I said, fantastic. But why don't you add upon who is weaving your sarees? From where did you procure the cotton? That level you can go back and build a story. So if you identify with the people who have actually helped you in your business, you link up their stories because you are involved in their upliftment also. You are giving them a livelihood. So understand that you are doing a bigger job than you visualize. You're not only selling a sustainable sari, you have supported their income, you have supported the groundwater level where the cotton is grown by using sustainable practices. Build everything into that and talk about sustainable development goals. How you have shaped that also in your enterprise. Because this is something which all want to look today. What are you supporting with regards to sustainability also? With regards to ESG.
Yeah.
Tell them, bring all those things in your pitch. That is your passion, that is your storytelling, that is how people relate to you. So having a website is good, but recording a video about your product and why you relate to it, I think it's more emphatic.
Yeah, the storytelling angle, yeah, that's very important. And finding your ikigai, like you're saying, that passion,
Yes.
why you're doing it.
Yes.
Yeah.
In fact, I was at a business school. I was on a panel and we were discussing about unmet need. People always ask me, especially people who want to brew some new ideas, they say, where do we get the idea for an enterprise? So I said, you have to find unmet needs or pain points that you can solve. We all say unmet need, if you solve, there'll always be a customer for it. So they asked me, what should be the unmet need? I said, Delhi's pollution. It's affecting everyone. That's the biggest unmet need.
Yeah.
Think about solutions for them. Unmet need comes from what is around you, or you discuss with people what the society needs. It could be a regulatory aspect, a social aspect, or ending poverty. Something like if you build on that, adding to a consumer product, adding to a medtech product, how you relate to it. Why is it important for you to take that idea further? If you identify your passion with it, then only you'll take it forward.
Yeah.
So I told all these B school students, first find your purpose. What moves you? What problem you want to solve? Or if you can't find that problem, please solve Delhi's pollution problem. That is something we all need to do at priority. And in fact, the teacher in charge who was with me, she said, yes ma'am, that's a brilliant idea. We're going to do brainstorming on that. And I told them, so much agricultural residue is still burning. Stubble is burning in different states across Delhi. So just go and get it. Just go and get the stubble so that the farmer doesn't burn. And then we'll think what to do of it. So then these students started giving options. Okay, we are going to use the stubble for cow sheds, lining for coolers, for replacing thermocol for packaging. That's how the students started talking. I said, बस stubble उठा के ले आओ और फिर सोचते हैं उसका क्या करते हैं.
Yeah, see, that's an unmet need, and then the ideas start coming. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. And we even discussed making mattresses from agri residue. We talked about biopolymers, bioresins, converting these agri residues. They can be converted in so many sustainable options for a circular economy. So, that's how, Anuradha, we could ignite passion in them. So, Delhi pollution ka root cause kya hai, wo study karo. अगर 70% is contributed to stubble burning, तो stubble burning prevent करना है. That's how we also spin our stories. So students relate what is happening to. So I felt good that I've done a good job because Delhi pollution needs to be contained. Delhi is becoming very not livable, if I can say.
Yeah. No, absolutely. Everybody's suffering really. You can't escape it. Yeah. So tell me, this is great advice and great message, that, there's an unmet need all around where, one can find their passion and their purpose. Anything else that you would like to advise, like young people who are getting into, like you mentioned, ESG and, meeting the UN's SDGs, Sustainable Development Goals, etc., or careers in STEM, social change, innovation, any other message for them?
I always tell them your co-founder is not your best friend. Your co-founder is the one with complementary strength. So find people, because I go to a lot of universities, colleges, they tell me entrepreneurship is largely for the STEM section. I said, but you're from B school. So the tech person can be from STEM. You do the business work, because the STEM person will not be able to sell the product. So synergize, form an enterprise with founders having complementary strengths. This is the key message I want to tell them, and we all have different kind of inherent potentials in us. So let's sharpen them, let's bring them on board and get the good rolling.
Absolutely. Great ideas. Dr. Shikha, you also mentioned that, one must read and write.
Yes.
So any books that, one can, read to be inspired?
So I'm a sponge for knowledge. I'm always reading books. In fact, when we were teaching at Jindal Global School, there are certain books we refer for startups. If you look up, there are a lot of friends who have written a lot of books. A lot of things are available online also. You can refer to a publication from Harvard also. Some standard B school material is there. There are a lot of Indian authors also. I don't want to be biased by naming a few, because they're all dear friends. So I think a lot of interesting books.
Subjects, like, if somebody has to start digging, where can they start? What topics should they look at?
Yeah, so I would request all of them to look up entrepreneur mindset.
Okay.
Because that mindset is very important. So it's not like everybody is doing it, so we'll also do it. That is not the right answer. That will not sustain you for long, because then you lose your spark very soon. You'll have some other interest. So read about what is required as an entrepreneurial mindset. That's the first thing I would advise them to
How
read.
would you describe it? What is an entrepreneurial mindset?
Something like we talked about passion, your USP, how you build upon it, and because you really want to solve a problem, it's not that you want to survive from government grant to one grant, you're not looking for a job. It should not be like that, and not that others are doing. Something like a problem statement you really relate to, and you want to solve that issue, or you want to bring a product to the market which you think, something like if environment friendly product like Biozazen is in the market, something I relate very deeply with it. So that passion stays with me. This is what I tell them. You have to identify why you're solving the problem or why you relate to the product. Then only you'll be able to take it forward. And people think being an entrepreneur is not going to an office, not following a 9 to 5 discipline. But they'll be shocked that this is 24/7 job.
Yeah.
That is also the mindset change that needs to happen. So when we talk to students, we ask them, why do you want to be an entrepreneur? So that's my opening question to a lot of them. They said, to be my own boss, to have flexible work hours. So being an entrepreneur is okay, you can take your time off whenever you want, but a lot of slogging is there 24/7. You have to be prepared for that.
Yeah.
And when you even take government's money, or that's taxpayers' money, by the way, and if you take investors' money, there's a lot of accountability. So that mindset. And another thing is, people normally say we are bootstrapped. So I tell them, you have to invest yourself first in your venture. Then only others will put money in you.
You mean put money or your effort?
Money and effort, both.
Both.
Should be able to get that initial investment to take your idea off. And we generally laugh and say, family, friends, and fools. Always
the 3 Fs.
So find them. If you're bootstrapped, it's absolutely fine. So this is also the mindset that people need to have, that I should also make the initial investment in my business so that others are also inclined to invest in me.
Yeah, you're putting your faith in your idea.
Exactly. So you believe in yourself, you want to take it forward, you want to take the product yourself to the first 100 customers. That passion and mindset should be there, Anuradha. This is what we tell them.
Yeah. Wonderful. That's the entrepreneurial mindset. And what you're saying, first the why has to be very clear, and then comes the how and everything else.
Exactly, because
Yeah.
otherwise you lose interest. When the
Yeah.
money runs out, you'll just run after a job.
Yeah.
You'll be the first one to exit. That continuity, that resilience has to be built in. That can only come with your passion and with your competency. Another thing is keep adding new skills. Keep reading how to develop a business plan, a business canvas, GTM, sales, marketing. There's a lot of good material, and we are always there as mentors and advisors. Abhi to I have also learned a term called agnostic, Anuradha.
Okay.
Agnostic is you can teach anything. You can talk about finance, you can talk about product development, you can talk about finding new markets, sales, customers. So I can say I've also become agnostic now. I have also learned on the job from being a microbiologist to supporting startups at all stages of their growth. So it's been a very enriching journey, and I would say with every startup I've mentored, I've also learned a lot.
Be an expert, basically. That's
Exactly.
You can learn. Yeah.
Exactly. So it's always a two-way street, and I realize I'm a better version of me each day.
That's so nice.
Yes.
You're already doing so much, so I don't know what more we can look forward to when you get better and better.
You only live once. So want to do everything.
Yeah.
The best of my ability.
Because you're like so uniquely placed, because I'm just saying that, you education, science, and like you said, you're finding ikigai and purpose, so that's great. So thank you so much, Dr. Shikha, for doing this with us.